My name is Nisha Katona, and it's always been my aim to lift the veil on ancient curry making formulas so that you can create pretty much any curry in just 3 spices and 15 minutes. And I firmly believe that this can be done if you understand which spices go with which ingredient and how you put them together. And that's what I want to show you. So can we start with vegetables? The way that we start vegetables in authentic Indian cooking is by heating a little bit of oil in a pan. Just enough oil into which we can drop our first and most important spice, and that's usually a seed, and it's called a head note spice. Well, I call it a head note spice because it will dictate the overall flavour of a dish. So let's start with a potato curry, just to show you how quick this is. Cumin, I'm going to make potatoes, and I think the citrus notes in cumin really lift the earthiness of root vegetables, so that's a very good head note spice to use with root veg. Cumin goes in, and if you just have a look in the pan here, it's starting to crackle, and that is what we want. They must crackle because only then do they release their true flavours. As soon as they have crackled, you can put in your main vegetables. So we go in with the potatoes. Now in goes the second spice. I promised you 3 spices. So we go in with our second spice, which is turmeric. Now the wonderful thing about these vegetable dishes is that there are 3 spices, but 2 always remain the same. That's turmeric and chilli. And the third and last spice to go in is a little bit of chilli to taste. Now the main body of the dish is done. It's spiced. We then go to the second stage of any curry making. And the second stage is to consider our finishing flavours. The finishing flavours that you need to consider with every vegetable dish correspond to the various areas of the tongue. Salt, sweet, sour, bitter, and in Indian, pungent. What we use to achieve those flavours is salt, sugar, tomato and lemon, and the pungency is brought in by watered down English mustard paste. So that is your kind of flavour armoury. We've done the spicing, and now we're ready to think about how we want the dish to taste. Now, let's make this into a kind of tomatoey Bombay potato dish. So a bit of tomato goes in, turn that down, a bit of salt and sugar, switch that off, and there is a very basic potato curry. I'm going to cook a little bit of cabbage now, and these leafy vegetables really suit the head note spice of mustard seeds. So our formula demands that we put a bit of oil in the pan, which I've done, and into that I drop a few mustard seeds. In we go with the cabbage, and then we're ready for our next 2 spices. I promised you 3 spices. Spice number 2 is always turmeric. Spice number 3 is chilli to taste, giving a little bit of heat, but also quite a bit of flavour. As soon as that vegetable becomes soft, we consider our finishing flavours. Now, these leafy vegetables with their own pungency really suit mustard paste, we have found. And so I add a little bit of watered down mustard paste, a bit of seasoning, so a bit of salt, and something to meet the sweet need, which is a little bit of sugar. Next we're going to cook a few courgettes. So again, in with the oil. Now what I find really suits courgettes is an Indian 5 spice. We call it panch phoron. But again, it's our head note seed, so we drop that in. As soon as those spices are brown, we're ready to go in with our vegetable. And then our final 2 spices. Second spice to go in is turmeric, giving it an earthy foundation. Turmeric is a ground root, and I think it places dishes firmly almost on Indian soil. And the last spice to go in is a touch of chilli. We look at our finishing flavours. A little bit of salt, a bit of sweet. It does suit these squashes, and this time something to lift the dish, a little bit of lemon juice. Now lentils, dal, falls into a slightly special category in that it's always better started with a little bit of ghee. But it's the same principle. I have here some boiled red lentils. All I did was boil them in water. Into our ghee, we drop one of the best head note spices for lentils, and that's jeera or cumin seeds. So the seeds go in. Then we put in our 2 other spices, which is turmeric and a little bit of chili powder. We consider our finishing flavours. Now what really suits dal is a bit of piquancy, and we get that very well from tomatoes. So we put in a generous amount of just chopped tinned tomatoes. We put in a little bit of salt, sweet if you choose. Of course you can combine your finishing flavours. Good generous squeeze of lemon, it kind of wakes the dal up. So you see it's exactly the same principle right the way through vegetables and your lighter pulses. Now meat dishes run along Islamic cooking principles. Vegetables, I've taught you the Ayurvedic principles. With meat, you start all dishes with onion, ginger and garlic. And that's what I've done this pan. A little bit of onion, ginger and garlic, and as soon as they are soft and translucent, you put in your meat. So I'm just going to do a little bit of chicken and show you the various ways we can make chicken dishes. Now as soon as the chicken has begun to go brown, we put in our main meat spice, which is garam masala. Garam masala has got a number of woody, aromatic, perfumed spices going through it. You throw your garam masala in and then you think about where you want the dish to go. If you want it more floral, we will up the coriander seed. I'm going to make this into a cream-based dish. So I'm going to make it a little bit more floral, so a little bit more ground coriander. But essentially the main spice, head note spice of meat dishes is garam masala. We then put in our second spice, which is turmeric, and we put in our final spice, which is a little bit of chili powder. In meat, the finishing flavours are different to vegetable dishes. You could finish a dish with a little bit of yoghurt or cream or coconut milk or tomato dishes to make it more of a kind of jalfrezi. You could add ground nuts, ground almonds perhaps, or things like this. These are curry leaves. I'm going to throw a few of these in. They are a very typically South Indian flavour, very, very fragrant and fresh and green. So I'm going to put those in, and I think I'm going to go the creme fraiche route with this dish. I think we obviously need a little bit of salt to season, and because it's a creamy dish, I think we could add a little bit of sweet to give it a kind of korma feel. This dish is nearly done, and at this stage I could add another finishing flavour. I could put a little bit of ground almond in just to give it a bit more texture. So we'll do that. You can't go wrong. This is where you really get to be the artist, and you are liberated into creating your own dishes. This is what the formula allows you to do. There are no hard and fast rules. Every home cooks a different curry. A basic kind of chicken tikka masala dish, onions, ginger and garlic in a pan. That's the start of the dish. In goes the chicken, followed very quickly by our head note spice, garam masala. Now, it's going to be a chicken tikka masala. So I'm going to add a little bit more cinnamon, just a bit more flavour of everything really, a little bit more coriander powder, and a little bit more cumin powder, because of course there is cumin powder in garam masala. So all we've done is elevated different elements of the garam masala, but it's still garam masala, spice 1, a bit of turmeric, spice 2, and a little bit of chili powder as our third and final spice. We look at our finishing flavours, and we're going to use both creme fraiche and tomatoes to give you that recognisable chicken tikka masala colour. We're going to season that with a little bit of salt. Quite a sweet dish, chicken tikka masala, but of course it's all to taste. You put in your final finishing flavour, which was a good helping of either cream, yoghurt or creme fraiche. And there we have a basic chicken tikka masala. 3 spices and just playing with your finishing flavours. Very quickly I'm going to show you how to make mincemeat according to our formula. Onions, ginger and garlic frying in the pan. In goes the mincemeat as soon as those things have turned transparent. In we go with our head note spice, garam masala, the defining meat spice. I'm going to put a little bit more of the floral perfume coriander powder in. And then we go in with spice number 2, turmeric, to give it that earthy foundation. Spice number 3, chili, to give it that height. And our dish is spiced. And then we consider our finishing flavours. Very simple with keema. Tomato base. Wherever you see one of these brown curries, it's a tomato base. If it's an orange curry, it's a tomato and cream base. And if it's a korma looking curry, there's no tomato, they've just gone straight to the cream. Or yogurt or creme fraiche. As soon as that mince is cooked through, that keema is done and full of deep flavours. So look, we have 4 very quickly created meat dishes founded on the 3 spice formula, and they're all different because of the finishing flavours that we used.